Good evening, Council President, members of the Council, and City leadership. My name is Kevin Relihan, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight regarding a newly identified public safety risk in our community and the fire department's plan to address it. I want to be very clear from the start. This is not a hypothetical concern. This is an active hazard that already exists, and the decisions made in this room will directly impact firefighter safety, public safety, and the city's liability moving forward. Before discussing the hazard itself, it is important to briefly address the political environment surrounding the issue. The railroad company involved is operating within a federal transportation exemption, meaning their actions are technically legal at this time. However, legality does not automatically equate to safety. Federal guidance specific to ethanol transfer operations in public spaces has not yet caught up with current industry practices, and waiting years for updated regulations is not an acceptable risk management strategy for this community. From a political standpoint, this places the city in a difficult position. On one hand, we want to support commerce, transportation infrastructure, and regional economic activity. On the other hand, the city has a clear responsibility to protect residents, emergency responders, and critical infrastructure. This is not about opposing industry. It is about acknowledging that when a private operation introduces a new hazard into a public space, the city must respond appropriately. Failing to do so exposes the municipality to operational failure, firefighter injury, and significant legal liability. The fire department's role is not to regulate the railroad, but to ensure we are prepared to respond when something goes wrong, because in hazardous materials incidents, something eventually does. Community risks created by ethanol offloading operations. This scenario introduces multiple high-consequence risks to the community. The first risk is ignition and fire behavior. Ethanol is a polar solvent that burns hotter and spreads faster than traditional hydrocarbon fuels. A spill or vapor release during offloading can lead to rapid flame spread that standard water streams cannot control. The second risk is mass casualty potential. These transfer operations are occurring along a public roadway. A vapor cloud ignition could impact motorists, nearby residents, railroad personnel, and first responders simultaneously. The third risk is firefighter exposure and injury. Our department currently lacks ethanol-specific foam, compatible application equipment, and PPE designed for alcohol-based fuel operations. Responding without these tools significantly increases the risk of burn injuries, inhalation exposure, and operational failure. Fire protection strategies to address these risks. To manage these risks, the fire department must enhance 5 critical capabilities. First, we need Class B ethanol-compatible foam concentrate, which is the only effective suppression agent for alcohol-based fuel fires. Water and standard foams are ineffective and can worsen the situation. Second, we need ethanol-related foam inductors and nozzles to properly apply to the foam during an incident. Without the correct delivery systems, even the right foam will fail. Third, firefighters require specialized training on ethanol fire behavior, vapor suppression, and risk-based operational decision-making. These fires behave differently, and incorrect tactics can escalate the incident instead of controlling it. Fourth, we must upgrade protective clothing and PPE to resist ethanol vapor penetration and increase thermal exposure. Finally, we must improve interoperable communications, allowing coordination with railroad officials, mutual aid departments, and command staff during a complex hazardous materials response. Educating citizens on the impact. From the community's perspective, these improvements mean faster incident stabilization, fewer evacuations, reduced roadway closures, and lower risk to surrounding neighborhoods. From the fire department's perspective, this means safer working conditions, fewer injuries, better operational control, and reduced long-term workers' compensation and liability costs. In short, preparedness reduces harm for everyone involved. Fire department's plan to improve fire protection. The department's plan is straightforward and fiscally responsible. Rather than requesting a budget increase, we propose targeted adjustments to existing line items to immediately address this hazard while maintaining a net zero budget impact. The approach demonstrates proactive risk management without increasing the overall tax burden. Budget impacts and project costs. There are 4 major budget impacts tied directly to these improvements. First, foam concentrate acquisition requires an additional $1,800, increasing the equipment rental line from $12,000 to $13,800. Second, foam application equipment, including eductors and nozzles, requires $7,350, increasing vehicle operations from $49,000 to $56,350. Third, specialized training adds $120 to the training line item, increasing it from $800 to $920. Fourth, PPE upgrades and communications enhancements total $1,275 across uniforms and communications line items. Altogether, these improvements total $10,545. To offset these costs, reductions are made to electricity, heating oil, and facilities operations line items through conservation measures and deferred non-essential work, resulting in no net increase of the overall budget for the department. Budget justification. Although the total budget number does not increase, the allocation of funds must change because the risk profile of the community has changed. Failing to reallocate funds would leave the department underprepared for a known documented hazard. This would be fiscally irresponsible and operationally negligent. The plan represents a responsible balance between safety preparedness and financial stewardship. Tonight, I am respectfully requesting that the council authorize the proposed line item adjustments so the fire department can immediately acquire the equipment, the training, and the protections necessary to manage ethanol offloading incidents safely. This action does not increase the city's overall budget, but it dramatically improves our ability to protect lives, property, and our firefighters. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and continued support of public safety. I am happy to answer any and all questions.